Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Elisa Guerra. I am an educator, and I have been working as a volunteer for the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential for over 22 years now. Today, we will have a live conversation with Janet Doman. She will introduce us to the work of the institutes, and she will tell us how parents can find hope for their brain injured children. Later on, she will be answering questions from parents in the audience and also questions that we received beforehand. We sent the invitation to this event to many parents from around the world, and some of them were kind enough to send their questions beforehand. So we will get to some of these questions, and we will also be taking questions from you, from the audience. So get ready, take lots of notes, have your questions at hand for the end of this conversation. And for now, it is my complete honor to introduce Janet Doman, the director of the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. Janet, welcome.
Elisa, it's great to be here with you, and I hope with many, many parents around the world.
Yes, we are already having and receiving here some of your comments from parents. We have here Julia from Italy. It's very nice to see you. And we will have Marlene helping us today in the moderating your comments. So if you want to ask something, you can do it at any time, and she will be helping us on that front until it's time for us to get to your questions. But right now, we are going to start a very exciting journey, and Janet is going to be our travel guide. Janet, we are welcome everybody to the institutes, and I would like to ask you the first question. Who are we?
Well, what a great question, and it's a big answer. We are a teaching organization. We have been teaching parents who come from around the world for 68 years. We began our work 68 years ago on this campus by creating the very first rehabilitation center in the state of Pennsylvania. And in those days, when I was a little girl growing up here, we were treating 60, 70, and 80-year-old stroke patients. And we got to the point with treating those stroke patients where we realized the old conventional methods were not working. And we threw them out and started from scratch. And it was then that early team of my father and Temple Fay started to really search and to discover ways of actually directly treating the brain. And it's somewhere in that journey, they realized that they were winning. Our patients were getting much better. And, you can treat 60, 70, and 80-year-olds. It's a thrilling thing to see them get better. But when my father saw his first severely brain-injured 3-year-old, it really haunted him, because he said, here we are throwing a life preserver to an 80-year-old, and 3-year-olds are being left warehoused in institutions and not helped. And so that really began the transition to children. And by the mid-60s, we were treating only children. And nowadays, we treat from birth to about 20. And if an adult wants to come, of course, we would never say no. But that's who we are. We treat brain injured children. And on that journey in treating hurt kids, by, I would say, 1964, 65, we began to do things with our hurt kids that told us, first of all, that hurt kids are much smarter than anyone thinks they are. By the time we were at 1964, we had 2, 3, and 4-year-old severely brain injured children who were reading. And not only were they reading well, they were reading far better than the well 7 and 8-year-olds across the street. And we couldn't watch that process without asking ourselves the questions. What's happening to the well kid across the street if a 3-year-old severely brain injured child can learn to read so easily? How tragic is it that 35 or 40% of first graders in America will fail to learn to read by the end of first grade? So it began a kind of third journey for us. When my father wrote How to Teach Your Baby to Read in 1964, it came out 60 years ago now. It was a revolutionary idea, and it's still a revolutionary idea in some neighborhoods. But for 60 years, we've been teaching parents of well children how their kids can have an enriched and enhanced early development. So that's really our story. That's where we are today. We teach parents, they come from all over the world. And today our subject is hurt kids, but we also teach the parents of well children.
And that's how I came initially to the institutes as a mother, as a very young mother. This was more than 22 years ago. And right now I am in Mexico. I am part of the work of the institutes in Latin America. And Janet, you are in our beautiful campus in Philadelphia. We have also a small video of an overview of our beautiful campus. So why don't you take us a little bit on the journey around the campus?
Well, here we are at Clark Hall, our main building, and a beautiful estate home, originally of Jay Cook. We were so lucky that we found this place, that in 1955, we couldn't afford the smaller place that my father wanted, and a very, very generous donor, Vinton Clark, helped my father to get the institutes. And of course, it was huge. And of course, we use every foot of it now. But it's a wonderful campus, and we feel extremely blessed every minute of every day to be able to welcome our families here. For our families, this has become really Fort Sanity. When parents say when they arrive here that they feel like they're in a very special place. Not the United States, not Europe. It's a really international place. There you see the Valentine Auditorium. And boy, that's the home of where we teach our families. We wish we can welcome all of you there. And now we're going to take a brief look at our Children's Center. There's the entrance to our beautiful Children's Center. And as I say, a campus that is really remarkable. Now we're going down from Clark Hall to the fountain, and from there the rest of the campus. I wish I could show you more.
Yes, of course, there's much, much more. But I am sure that now that you said that we are talking today specifically for the families of our brain injured children, I would like to ask you, Janet, who are our children? I'm sorry.
You know, it's probably one of the most important questions you could ask, because in the world of hurt children, children who have a problem in the central nervous system, there is a very difficult journey there for our parents, because children who have a problem in the central nervous system, who have a problem in the brain, are seldom, parents of these children are seldom told your child's problem is in the central nervous system. Instead, they are often given not one, but sometimes 2 or 3 symptomatic labels. Labels like cerebral palsy, autism, global developmental delay, epilepsy, dyslexia, attention deficit disorder. Actually, the last time we literally searched the literature to see how many of these symptomatic labels exist for our children, we found there were over 300. This creates tremendous confusion for parents, because if you don't have a proper diagnosis, if you don't know where the problem actually is, you can waste months or years or even decades of time of a kid's life searching because you don't have a real diagnosis to begin with. So I think the most important thing that Temple Fay and my father said many years ago, brain injury, is in the brain.
Brain
It is,
injury is in the brain.
that's
Yes.
right. It is not in the elbow. It is not in the tongue. It is not in the behavior of the child. Brain injury is in the brain. And when a child is injured in the brain, he may have 300 symptoms that are bizarre, frightening, funny, but those are symptoms of a problem for the central nervous system because, of course, the brain runs everything. So, in answer to the question, who are our children? Our children range from a child who may be in a coma, from perhaps a traumatic injury, a child who may be blind, deaf, paralyzed, speechless, a child who may be able to move but very poorly, a child who may be able to walk but very poorly, talk very poorly, a child who may walk and talk and sing and dance but have very big problems with hyperactivity, focus, attention, interest, the child who struggles in school, who cannot keep up in reading and writing and mathematics. Um, every child you can imagine, between the most profoundly hurt to the least profoundly hurt, we treat. If the problem is in the central nervous system, if it's in the brain, that's one of our kids. If it's in the periphery, that's a different story. Muscular dystrophy, these kind of peripheral problems we do not treat. All of our kids are hurt in the brain. But the trouble is, most of our parents have never really been told that. They've been told, oh, your kid has the incurable disease, cerebral palsy.
Mhm,
Your child
mhm.
has the mysterious thing called autism. And, accept him as he is, he'll never change. So, along with these symptomatic labels, which we call libels, comes a prognosis, which is almost inevitably negative. The prognosis is very rare that someone will say, oh, you're trisomy 21. Congratulations. Life's going to be easy for you. Just the opposite. So I think for our families, many, many of our families have been everywhere searching really for a proper diagnosis because they know once they have that, then they know what to search for to do about it.
Yes, of course. And this situation that you are describing creates a lot of confusion. And just as you were saying that brain injuries in the brain, and you mentioned that this is one of the most important phrases to remember, I would like to ask you, Janet, what will be the single most important thing if you had only, I don't know, 1 minute to tell something to parents? You have seen many parents from around the world. Is there one piece of advice, one thing that will be the most important one? And to illustrate this question, I would like to bring a picture of your father, because tomorrow it's a very special day for us in the Institute. And if you can comment us why as well, it's a very important day for us.
Well, my father was born 104 years ago tomorrow. So, yes, we are already celebrating his birthday. Um, of course, he is the founder of the institutes. He was a most extraordinary human being. I can describe him best by saying, if you had to say one word that describes him, it would be the word yes. He loved the word yes, and he hated the word no. He did everything not to not say no and to say yes. And that's really the heart of why he started with that first brain injured child, because that child was a paralyzed child, a 3-year-old. He looked at that child and said, here is a child trapped in a cage the size of his own body. And that was such a horrifying prospect to my dad that he really spent his whole life saying, we must find answers. We must give our kids options. We must find a way to get them better every day. And that's what he spent 93 years doing. So a most remarkable man. And I'm about to say the thing. If he were here right now and you ask him what's the single most important thing parents need to know, there isn't any question. He would say these are the 5 most important words for not only parents of brain injured children, he would say for any parent. The brain grows by use. The brain literally, like the biceps grows by use. The brain literally grows every single minute of every day from the moment the brain is a brain in shortly after conception up until the day we die. The brain is growing. It is changing. It is affected by everything in our environment. So far from a brain injured child being hopeless, the brain is the most changeable organ on earth. It runs everything in the body, and it's changing every minute of every day. So yes, the single most important thing our parents need to know is the brain grows by use. And once parents really understand that, then of course they have to ask the question, how do I use it? And how do I use it better? And that's what we're all about.
And Janet, you were just saying a word that is a very difficult word for most parents to hear. You mentioned the word hopeless. And I would like to ask you now, um, is there really a hopeless child? Who is a candidate for your program? What is the potential of a brain injured child?
Yeah, in the world in which we live, people come to the institutes and they're shocked. They think because they're coming to a place that's about brain injured children that there's going to be a lot of tragedy here or sadness or angst or worry. And the institutes is the exact opposite. This is one of the happiest places that you would ever be. I mean, parents arrive here and they breathe the fresh air and say, my goodness, everybody here is happy. We're happy for a very simple reason. We get to see our kids change every day. We get to see them getting better. And there just isn't anything, there's no better game in town than the game of a kid who may be severely brain injured and being part of watching him get better every day. So the idea that a kid is hope, if a kid is breathing in and out, if he's alive, there is hope. And, we have seen comatose kids who went all the way, and it's not a predictable thing. We can't look at a kid. We don't have a crystal ball. We will diagnose our kids, but we will never prognose. I don't know how parents will come and say, yes, the 4 doctors told me he's blind and he's always going to be blind. I don't know how those 4 doctors came to that conclusion, but I must imagine they have a crystal ball that they can look in and make this kind of statement. But here at the institutes, we don't have any crystal balls. We have a knowledge of the brain, and we use that knowledge to use the brain and grow the brain every day. And because we do, we get to see it change. We get to see it change. And let's take those blind kids. If we just look at our statistic on blind kids, of the blind kids who come here, and these are kids who arrive who are cortically blind. They may not see light, or they may see only outline, but they are cortically blind, well below functionally blind. Of that group, we will teach mother what to do at home to treat that pathway, to grow the visual pathway. And 86% of those kids will be able to see, and the vast majority will be able to read, which I think is a pretty good standard to evaluate blindness. And That miracle was not accomplished here by us. That was accomplished entirely, in every case, by mother and father and kid at home, hundreds or thousands of miles from here. So that's a very classical example of the brain grows by use. And if you say to me, well, how did you do that? First of all, I'd say we didn't do it, mother did it. But the truth is, we provided light to the brain. Because when blind kids come here, you won't believe this. No one ever tells the mother of a blind kid, put light in your kid's eye. We say to mom, get a $4 flashlight and provide light to the visual pathway and do it with this frequency, this intensity, this duration. And 86% of our cortically blind kids will end up seeing.
I love when you talk with such love and enthusiasm about parents, Janet, because I came to the institute also as a mother, and you taught me how to teach my own children, and I love it when you say in the institutes that parents are not the problem, parents are the answer. And I would like to ask you now, how is it so? Why are parents the answer?
Well, we learned this very directly many, many years ago when I was little growing up here. And gradually we started to accept children here. And so we had adults upstairs, we had the kids downstairs. Of course, these children who were these were profoundly and severely brain injured kids. We had 30 kids in our children's ward. We did the program with them, our staff, from early in the morning until quite late. They got a huge amount of stimulation and opportunity, and they were incredibly hurt kids. Some of them were very much at risk. The staff did this. They watched these kids get better. They watched these kids change. And many of these kids were actually local kids. And sometimes mom would come and say, could I help? And of course, an extra pair of hands, especially mother's hands, we always welcomed that. And so mothers started to help us. And as more mothers helped, we would say to mother, you know how to do this well, so you do this and we'll do it with another kid. And then mother learned the next thing to do and the next thing, until one day, one of the mothers, my father said, you know how to do the whole program. You could keep your kid home and do the program there. And mother was thrilled. What mother doesn't want her kid home with her? And of course, as we did this, we found that kids at home with mom and dad and grandmother did even better than they did here. Of course they did. And that brought us to a kind of sad day, I think, for my father and for all of his team, because they were therapists. They were hands-on people. I think the day he sat his team down and said, we're sending the kids home. We're going to be teaching parents parents are the best therapist. Parents are the answer. Parents get the best results. So in the face of that, we have to do that. And that was a huge decision. I suspect he was wise enough to know that was a huge decision. And I'm sure for him and for his team, there was a bit of loss there, because there's a great satisfaction in being hands-on and treating a child yourself, and especially when it's a brain injured child, because brain injured children are amazing. There's something very, very, I don't want to use the word special because it's been overused in the wrong way with brain injured children. Brain injured children are incredible. They are much more intelligent than anybody knows they are. They are incredibly forgiving. They have tremendous senses of humor very often. So working with them is such a pleasure, especially when you get to see them getting better.
And I'm sorry if maybe the question is redundant, but most of the parents that come to the institutes are not really professionals. They are not healthcare professionals. They are not teachers. And I know that some may feel, because I felt that way at the beginning, how on earth I am going to be able to do this? So, Janet, exactly what do you teach parents?
Yeah, we teach parents in a very intensive way. And we don't just teach them do this and don't do that. Of course, we do teach them what to do. But before we teach them what to do, we teach them why it matters. We
Mhm.
teach them how the brain grows, why it grows the way it does. And this is a critical point, and it's a big difference in our parents, we believe, and perhaps other parents. The parents who come here want to know why. They want to know why. And we have found once parents really understand why, teaching the how to's is not so difficult. And what makes our parents so strong that they can take that information home and put it to work. And on the good days, they get a great job done. And on the bad days, when it would be feel easier to say, oh, let's just not do it today, they say, no, the brain grows every day. I do it every day. So I think that why is the special secret ingredient for our families to keep them strong, to keep them consistent, for them to get results.
And you just said that you teach parents and then they go home and they carry out the program at home. Why is the program done at home? Why
Well,
not at the institutes?
because parents are the best by far. And if you think about the thousands of parents over the years who have come here and learned and then gone back to their own home to do the program, that would never have been possible. We would only have been able to treat a handful of children if they came here. As it was, thousands of parents have been able to do this at home. And of course, it costs pennies compared to having your child at a center, which would be so costly for mom and dad. We needed a program that all of our parents could do if they wanted to, and right at home where it would be the best thing. And the other thing is, I have to say, the idea we're raised in a world that where we think kids need other kids. Kids,
Mhm.
little kids especially, don't need other kids. They need adults. And brain injured kids, most especially, don't need other brain injured kids. The only thing a brain injured kid can learn from another brain injured kid is how to bite somebody or how to scream or how. So it's kind of a disaster to put brain injured children with other brain injured children. So kids are safe at home. They're having the example of mother and father, the example of older brother, the example of grandmother. That's how they learn, okay, this is what's okay, this is what's not okay.
And right now, and of course, in the days to come, when parents also come to see the session that we are presenting right now, that it's going to be recorded. You will be happy to learn, the parents that are listening to us, because then you will be able to listen to it again, and you can, of course, share it with other parents. So it's going to stay right here for you to use it later. Um, but there are parents from all over the world with this catastrophic situation.
Mhm.
What is the first step? Suppose that they want to get involved and learn more. Where do they go from here?
Well, the first step, and it's pretty easy step, I think, is to read the book, What to Do About Your Brain Injured Child. And happily, it's in many languages. Happily, it's a very popular book, so it's in the library. So if you have a good library, start there. If you need to get the book, it's not in the library. You can go up to our website and get it. You can get it on Amazon. Probably you can get every version of the book on Amazon. You can get a used book for 50 cents or you can get a new one. But that book is a great place to start because you will learn the why behind the program. You will learn about the Institute's history, and you'll learn enough. So if you want to get started, there are things there so you can begin.
Okay, so parents read this book, of course, and then what? What comes next after they read the book?
Well,
Or what can they do?
I think the solution, I think the answer to that question is always to attend our course, What to Do About Your Brain Injured Child. Is it a big step? Yeah, it is a big step. It's a very intensive course. It is a very exciting course. And that course, and we just finished one last week, that course, by the end of that course, parents have the big picture. They know why it's possible for their kid to get better. They know how the brain grows, why it grows the way it does. And they have a lot of pieces of the puzzle that they've been searching for. First of all, I think the biggest thing is they have an evaluation of their kid. We literally teach them in great detail about the developmental profile of the institutes. This is the oldest neurological tool to measure growth and development of the brain that exists on planet Earth. And it is an amazing tool that allows us to measure our kids against a well kid, see exactly what that child's neurological age would be, and compare that to their chronological age. And of course, that gives us a growth rate. So we can say, okay, this kid is growing at 40%. This kid is growing at 20%. It gives us a baseline so that we can measure every time we see that kid again, we can measure him on that same profile and say, well, gee, have we speeded him up? Are we winning? Are we winning fast enough? It is without measurement, there is no science. So you have to have this tool. And in the world of brain injured children, there was no measurement tool. Nothing existed to say, well, really, where is this kid injured? How much is he injured there? And what is his neurological age? So we not only can derive the neurological age, but this is a tool where you can look at an actual diagnosis.
And Janet, the course was usually held in person, live in person in many places around the world. Myself, I had the pleasure to be in many of those courses, helping out with translation. And I have here a couple of snapshots from those courses. And I would love if you could enlighten us a little bit and tell parents what is going on. Because if you just see these pictures, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah, here we are. This is a live course, and we're basically teaching about the physical program, because a big part of the program we design for every child is the physical program. And here we see a very important part of a program for a paralyzed kid is learning that they can move, that they don't have to be paralyzed, and putting them into an environment which is designed to make it easy to move. So here we see Rumiko, and this is at our course in Mexico, I believe. And she is, one of our mothers is here with one of our kids. And we see a kid who was paralyzed, but now is completely able to come down this slide, moving and using his arms and legs. And of course, when he gets to the bottom, he starts to learn how to move on that flat floor. So this is one of the initial steps of getting a paralyzed kid to move, by creating an environment where he can move.
Okay, yes. And here we have another one that is very interesting. What's going on here?
Well,
It's you there with
Yeah,
another group of
there we are with a group of families, and we're teaching them how to do patterning, of probably one of the most famous parts of our program. And this is a sensory program. This is a tactile program where a team, and you can see here, mom and two mothers on either side, are doing the patterning. And basically, they're putting in the sensory information. This is how it feels to crawl. This is how it feels to crawl. This is how it feels to crawl. So this child who may have been paralyzed, now the brain has some information. And when you put this kid on the floor, or on that inclined floor that we just saw, now a kid can take advantage of that environment, because we have put in the tactile stimulation that was needed to help that child. So again, this is a very old program that we've been doing for many, many years, and it is astonishingly effective.
And here comes my favorite. Please look at this little girl. What age is this little girl? Well, what is going on here, Janet?
Well, she's probably 2.5, and we see mom, and mother is showing her a book that I'm sure mother made herself because we can see the print is quite large. And here's a little girl who already has learned probably hundreds of single words, probably dozens of couplets and some phrases. But mom is taking those words she's already learned and she's made a beautiful book. And if we could see the book more closely, we would find this is not a baby book. The content of this book is good nonfiction, factual information. And you can see the attention, the interest, the enthusiasm of the child. She's surrounded by 60 or 70 people watching her. How many 2-year-olds can you imagine bringing into a room and even having them sit quietly and happily doing nothing, never mind pulling out their reading materials? But you can see that book has more interest for her than all those 60, 70 people. And of course, they're very interested in watching too. So it's a perfect demonstration of the high intelligence of the brain injured child and the ability of the tiny child to learn rapidly.
This particular course that we are seeing in this picture, I was there, so it's also very moving for me to remember that particular day. And I have seen many, many, many kids like her in
Yes.
the many, many years that we have been working together with these families. Now, of course, the course is online. We started presenting the course online since the pandemic. How is the experience different or similar? And one is the next course. Can you talk a little bit
You know,
about that?
I must confess that when the pandemic came along, at first we were really horrified because there was no way for our parents could not come. And no one was more skeptical than I was about putting this wonderful course that we've been giving for many, many years, trying to put it online. We didn't want it to be degraded in any way. We didn't want it to be ineffective. So we worked out a careful way that we could deliver the course 100% live. So parents were able to stay at home, but the staff would be right there in the Valentine Auditorium for every minute of every lecture, and to have our breaks live so parents could ask the same questions they would ask if they were there in the Valentine Auditorium. And I must say, the first time we did it, we kind of held our breath and were quite shocked that it turned out to be a uniformly astonishing experience for our families and for us. It meant that families in Ethiopia could take the course next to a family from Dubai, next to a family from Aguascalientes, next to a family from Tokyo. Of course, the time differences were pretty challenging. We did it last week, and there was an Australian mother. She stayed up all night and did the course and was asked great questions and said it was an incredible experience. So I think now that we've been doing it for 2 years, we are pretty convinced that it is effective, and we intend to continue to offer the course online, but we also look forward to having live courses here. So families who can come here and who wish to would be able to have that live course, but we'll certainly continue doing the online course.
So it's, of course, very convenient and much more accessible if parents can attend from home. But still, sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming because it's a lot of time commitment. What if parents listening are not completely sure, for example, if their child is brain injured, or if they should take the course, if their family is a candidate for the course? I know that at institutes we provide consultation for parents.
Yes.
And could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, when mother or dad or grandmother calls and they have questions, um, they can they can call us directly. Our phone number is up on the website, or they can make an actual appointment, a Calendly appointment, and schedule it at a time that's convenient for them. And then they will talk to our registrar. Always, Jackie Johnston, who is the registrar, always she will make available um, our clinicians so that if parents have clinical questions, and they often do because they want to know, is what caused the injury like your other kids? Does my kid sound like one of your kids? So here you see Susie Asen, who is the vice director of the institutes, and she is at a course actually answering a mom's question there, but she is available to do those free consultations by phone, along with our registrar, Jackie Johnston. And again, we have the whole clinical team backing her up so that we always have plenty of staff available to make sure parents' questions get answered.
Okay, and we have a question here from a mom that I know that we said that question's going to be at the end, but I think it pretty much goes well hand in hand with my next question.
Okay.
So Ruth Peña is asking us, do you create a personal program for children to parents to do at home? And my own question, and you can mix these two questions, Janet, is what can parents do once they are done with the course?
Yeah.
Is there a certification? What I mean, what comes next? What are they able to do once they are done with the course?
Yes. And of course, the parents who attend every minute of every day of the course get certification in child brain development at the initial parent level. We have further certification as parents go on with us and do the program, but this is the first certificate, and it's a great privilege for us to be able to award that to our families. The course itself not only teaches mom and dad how to evaluate their child. So they literally in the course will have that developmental profile. They'll know exactly where their child is on that profile. They'll know the neurological age, they'll know the growth rate, but they will also know what the physical program for their child should be. They're going to learn about it, and then we're going to have them create it with us and critique it. So when parents finish the course, they will have a balanced home program that consists of a physical program, an intellectual program, and a physiological program. And they'll get started. And then we will ask them 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, to be in touch with us so we can do a home program consultation to make sure that everything's going smoothly, to answer any questions they have, to say, do more of this, do less of that. And many of these parents, of course, are on a pathway to get an appointment to actually come to Philadelphia. So we want to make that first visit for a family, we want to make the pathway to that first visit as smooth and as easy and as quick as we can.
Yes, and that's what we are. That's what we are looking here. A family already in the clinic. This is Olivia, very dear clinical staff member for many years, multilingual, and she's helping the family to exactly do what you just said. And again, here we have another member of our staff, Dr. Ernesto Vasquez, also taking care of the family. And we have here again, parents are the answer, the importance of parents. Parents are the answer and not the problem. Janet, we're just about to get to questions. Is there anything you would like to say before we go to questions?
No, I think I'd love to have the first question. That would be great.
Okay, so I am going to start with the questions that we received beforehand. And there are some people here saying hi. Oh my God, where are you from? Maybe you know, Janet. And okay, so we have here some of the questions that were sent beforehand. um, Maya G from the US. My son is not brain injured, but has learning difficulties and hyperactivity. Some professionals say we ought to medicate him, others to just wait it out. What do you recommend?
Well, I welcome this question because, kids in this at this level, they are not blind and deaf and paralyzed, but they're not going to make it in school, and they're in big trouble. And parents know they're in big trouble. It's a very, very bad place to be because some professionals say to mom, "Oh, he's a little behind. Don't compare one child to another. You know, stop worrying. He'll catch up." And mother says to herself, he's not catching up. He's getting further and further behind. She takes him to another doctor. This doctor says, he's slow. And just so you know, he's always going to be slow. Don't waste time trying to find answers for him. Love him the way he is. Accept him as he is, because you're never going to change this kid. And mother says to herself, I got to get another doctor. In our view, both of these things are insane. He is not going to catch up. You do need to intervene. You do need to roll up your sleeves. There is an answer. It's stimulation and opportunity, but you need to know how to do that. And mother's correct in saying he has a problem. She's right. She's also correct in saying, I don't think he's hopeless. I think he has huge potential. I just need to know what to do for him. And you won't find the answer to a brain injured kid in the medicine cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it again. You will not find the answer to problems in the central nervous system in the medicine cabinet. There is no answer in the medicine cabinet to fix a hurt brain. The brain needs to mature. It needs maturation. And anything that will mature the brain will make the child better. What matures the brain? Stimulation, opportunity. Most of what is in that medicine cabinet will sedate the child. Now, do you think a sedated child is going to mature and receive stimulation and opportunity? It's the opposite of stimulation and opportunity. So medication is not the answer. Stimulation and opportunity are the answer.
I have another question here. In fact, I have many questions, and we need to apologize because we got lots of questions from parents from around the world beforehand, and we are not going to be able, of course, to answer them all today, but we chose the most representative ones. So we hope that some parents are going to, even if it was not your question, you may find yourself close to these parents. So JB, also from the US, my son is on the spectrum. I assume this is spectrum disorder, autistic spectrum disorder. We have gone everywhere and tried everything, but nothing seems to help. How is your program different? Some people tell me to just, what you were saying, to just accept that he will never improve.
Well, again, there probably isn't any sillier word in English than the word autism. It's absolutely meaningless. And yet, it has a power to strike fear and dread in every mother's heart. These kids are brain injured kids. That's the good news. Now, is it good to be brain injured? No, it's not good to be brain injured, but the brain is fixable. So the idea that you can't get better is nonsense. Of course you can get better. Again, hurt kids do not come out of cookie cutters. So there isn't a cookie cutter answer. Every kid needs to be evaluated. Every kid needs to have a history. Every kid needs a program that's designed for that kid's problems. Some of our kids, especially kids who have come to us with this particular symptomatic label, some of them have very big physiological problems, big gut issues. And we can't treat them without addressing their nutritional problems, their gut problems. So there's not one simple answer. to this question, but our program is different because it treats the problem. It doesn't treat the symptom. Your child's problem is not behavior. He's not a behavior problem. Your child's problem is not that he's stupid. He's not an intelligence problem. His
Yes.
problems are much more significant and fixable. So what makes us different is that we will evaluate him. We will give him a proper diagnosis, and it won't have anything to do with behavior modification. It will have to do with changing the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And we will address his intellect, because this group of children are highly, highly intelligent. And they are often not treated as if they're highly intelligent, which means they're living in great frustration and misery because people around them don't know how smart they are. They need very high level intellectual stimulation. So there are a lot of other things that make us different, but those are some of those things. And
And
as for they'll never improve, that we would say that's nonsense. Who could ever say such a thing?
And in the 22 years that I have been a volunteer for the institutes, I have met so many families, so many success stories. We should do another time a session, maybe bringing in some of the mothers and for them to tell their stories here. But you can go to our website. And Marlene, who is kindly helping us to moderate the comments, she's giving you the link to our website. And there you can see many, many stories of parents and families just like yours and what was their experience.
Yeah.
Okay, we have here also from the US, Giselle P. My baby was born with Down's syndrome. She's 4 weeks old. Is there something we could do? And if so, how soon could we start? We get this one a lot, Janet.
Yeah.
How soon is too soon? How late is too late?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that she assumes she should get started doing something, because that's correct.
Yes.
This is the group of kids that are in some ways the most misunderstood. Here in the United States, in the last 12 months, if it was like the 12 months before, more than 80,000 of these kids are routinely terminated in utero because parents are led to believe that these kids have no future, that they'll create problems for the family, that the other kids in the family won't. I mean, the things that parents, that a mom who's pregnant with one of these kids are told are truly, truly horrifying. So I applaud this mom for having paid no attention whatsoever to any of that nonsense. She has her baby. And again, one of the great advantages for the trisomy 21 child is that we know right at birth that there are going to be problems in the central nervous system. So this mom doesn't have to waste 4 years to find out the kid's got a problem. She knows the kid has a problem. Where there is misunderstanding, of course, trisomy 21 is a genetic problem.
Yes.
We do not change genetic problems. We are not in the gene changing business. So why would we be treating one of these kids? The answer is that trisomy 21 clearly creates a neurological problem in the child. So these kids have at least 2 problems. The first is genetic. We won't change that at all. We don't know how to fix that. The second is their brain injured. That's treatable. And from our experience, because we've been treating these kids for 50 years, from our experience of those 2 problems, the brain injury is the bigger problem. If you intervene and you provide stimulation and you provide opportunity and the kid gets better, he can get so good that he can go to school with everybody else. You know, he can get his, one of my favorite pictures is one of our Down syndrome kids who we graduated from our program when he was 6. He went on to get his degree in economics.
Oh, yes. I know who you're talking about.
A wonderful picture of him with his arm around his mom and dad. And I was kind of shocked by the picture because I hadn't seen his parents in 15 years or something. And they looked so old. And I realized the reason I love the picture so much is that it's clear he's taking care of them now. And that's exactly the way it should be. he's 20 years old. He should be taking care of his parents. He is. So you can start right at birth. Again, for these babies, we do have a special course called the newborn course, and it teaches mothers of any and all newborns how to start stimulation right at birth and how to move up that developmental profile rapidly. And it has to go with it.
Okay, so there is a clear path. I know we are approaching time, but we still have questions, Janet. So if that's okay with you,
Great.
we're going to the next one. And hi, I have a child that is exhibiting stemming behaviors. We have started a physical program and pattern every day. What do we do to help with stemming in particular?
This group of children often have behavior that is repetitive and even sometimes alarming. And it is very much our experience that once you put attention on their diet, it can make a massive change in these repetitive behaviors. So we would really look at what is this kid eating? We would take out gluten, we would take out wheat, we would take out all whole grains, as a matter of fact, probably to begin with. We would take out simple sugars like fruit, because fruit feeds the bad bacteria in the gut. We would make pretty significant changes in the diet by eliminating foods that we have learned cause problems in the gut. And when you do that, and you do it consistently, you can see a change sometimes almost immediately, an improvement. And when you get all the things out of the diet that shouldn't be there, and by the way, it's not just taking out bad things, it's putting in very good, healthy vegetables and protein. That would be mostly my answer to that question, not knowing that child at all, but the description of the repetitive behavior. That's one of the things, if I were that mom, I would look at diet very, very closely.
And we have here another question from Marion Ogden. Does your program help kids with FASD brain damage from maternal drug alcohol use while pregnant?
I would say that we have seen kids from every etiology you can imagine. There are probably 100 ways to hurt a good brain, sadly. And I think by now we've seen them all. I hope so. So yes, we have seen such kids. And again, I would say to you, it's very tragic to see a child who got hurt, perhaps in utero, from something that happened that was avoidable. But the brain is incredibly plastic. Neuroplasticity is real. And the young brain is the most plastic of all brains. So if we intervene with this baby and we do it consistently, we give the correct and appropriate stimulation, we give effective opportunity, these babies can change very, very rapidly.
Okay, and they keep coming, Janet. Maybe just one or two more. Here we have Beko. How effective is it to start the program at age 13 with a diagnosis of sensory motor alalia?
Well, again, I'm going to address this one just on the subject of the age, because I think it is commonplace for parents to think, oh, well, this is for babies. Babies will do well, but my kid is 13. Isn't he over the hill? We just last week, I put up on the newsletter that we put out for parents of hurt kids every week, I put up the success story of a young man who was 21, 22 years old when he started our program. And in fact, he was institutionalized at that point. So he spent his day playing with Star Wars toys. And his parents took him out of that situation, started a program with him. And today he lives independently. He has his own apartment. He's an artist who sells his works. So is it possible at 22 to make a massive change? If there's the will to do it. And mom and dad were so excited. And when they proposed to him, do you want to do the kind of work you'd have to do? Because it's a tough program. He said, yes, he did want to do it. And he did. So 13 is not too old. Remember, we started with 60, 70, and 80-year-old stroke patients. That's where
Yes.
we began. So I don't think a 13-year-old is over the hill.
The sooner the better, but it is never too late.
Right.
Well, Janet, we are just over the hour right now, and I think this is a good place to stop our conversation. Maybe we can have another conversation sometime soon. I just want to thank you for your time and to thank all the parents that were here with us today for all your questions and your comments. We really appreciate them. And I don't know, Janet, any final words you would like to say?
So I don't know technologically, but I feel badly when we don't get to all the questions. So if parents have questions and they send them to us, email those questions to us, we'll do our very best to answer each and every question. I don't want anyone to go away without getting their questions answered. So if you reach out and send them to us, we're here. We'll be happy to answer your questions.
And of course, there's also the possibility of the free phone consultation as well.
Yep, absolutely.
One-on-one time with the staff.
Yep.
Well, thank you again, everyone, and keep up doing your wonderful job at home. Keep up loving your children and looking for answers. We certainly hope that we can meet with you and your children in the very near future. Janet, thanks again.
Elisa, thank you. It was great.
Bye-bye.
Again.
Let's do it. Yes. Until next time.